Alright, so we're back on the bench. We glued these spars in last night, so let's take a look. I will tell you there's one thing I did do off camera. This morning I came in and checked on the progress here, and I saw that the slots I cut for the spars weren't completely filled with glue, so I just took a little of the thick glue, the goop, and spread it on there. So you can see now the spar channels are completely full and level, and that's what you want. You want that goop to hold them things in. So get our tape off of here. We'll take a look at the bottom. I'm sure it's very much the same. Yeah, we're good to go. Got those channels just filled up. So I'm gonna carry on. We've got a little extra goop there, but we'll just sand that off before we laminate. Alright, so the next step is probably going to be installing the motor mount. Now, because I'm using a custom mount that I 3D printed, this is TPU, by the way, so a little flexy. This is longer than the one that came with the kit. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, there it is. So that's the one that came with the kit. You can see this one is much longer. And that's one of the reasons I want to use this mount, because I know from experience that when you have a really, really hard crash in a wing, they tend to rip right here, right where the wing meets that center section. So this motor mount will actually extend out into there and stop that ripping from happening. I hope. So we'll see. But that does mean we're going to have to do some cutting, because as you can see, it's longer than that opening. Whereas if we're using the stock one, that fits right in there. So we're going to have to mark and cut here. Do a little bit of measuring, marking, and cutting, and get some foam out of there. So let's get started with that. Where's my pencil? Let me get rid of these batteries. Don't need these anymore. Okay. So the motor mount's going to sit right about here, and it's going to extend out about ½ an inch into each side. It looks about centered, but let me... Oh, it's pretty centered. So I'm just going to make a mark where it extends to. Where's that marker? That might work. Extends up to there. Looks centered. Okay. What I'm going to have to do is just trace around it. With the knife. So I'm going to have to go about that deep. I'm going to use a snap blade for this. I'm going to go about that deep on the back cut. Alright, so I'm just going to cut in here to that mark I made. There we go. And I'm going to cut right here. And adjust the snap blade because you can see this thing is tapered on the end there. So I'm going to make a shorter cut and then cut it over to the long cut so that it fits right in there. And that cut's going to be here. Again, this isn't exactly science. You gotta make a cut about right and then just kind of work it until it works. I'm going to extend out that blade and just make this cut on the bottom from one to the other, hopefully. There we go. Oh yeah, perfect. 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 So I made a perfect little cut. There you go, you can see it. It's pretty much perfectly going to fit this right there. Look at that. Ha. Alright, we just got to do the same thing on the other side. There. Lock my blade. And let's go out that far. Go, make another cut. This one. And extend that blade out. Connect the two cuts. Wow, I can't believe how well that worked. That's great. It worked really, really well. Alright, beautiful. You can see the two cuts there. This is going to slide right in there, I hope. So let's see. Ha! Couldn't be more perfect. Okay, this one needs to be a little deeper. Keep moving that the wrong way. This one. You can see it sticks up a little bit, so we're going to make that cut a little deeper. The other one's pretty much perfect. Okay. Alright, just take a little more foam out of there. See how that looks. Again, with wings, when you're building wings, you're coming from quads. You're going to find all this a little odd because it's not, it's just not that exact. You get it about right. So look at that. It's time to glue that bad boy in. You get it about right, and that's good enough. I mean, the better you can do, the better it is, but you can only do so good. It's not everybody, even the best wing builders. With the exception of maybe Chris Click. He's he's built probably thousands of wings, but I think it's my 9th wing. The best you can do is the best you can do, and that's it. And that's what you do. Don't go thinking that if it's not perfect, that it's not going to be good. It is going to be good. Yeah, just get it as good as you can get it. Put a nice thick layer of goop on there. Look at that. It's all gooped up. And I'm going to put some in these holes right here. There we go. Got a little on the desk, but that's okay. Let's see, do I have any old propellers? Hard to believe I don't have any. What else can I use? Ah, that'll work. All right. This thing is all gooped up. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm just going to smear that goop that squeezed out all over it. Press it down nice and hard right here. Smear some more on the top. Good, 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 good. Okay. Now the only thing I'm going to clean out is that center hole right there, just to make sure my motor doesn't get gooped. Okay. Okay. That was great. Exactly the way I hoped it went in. It went in. Alright, so now we're just going to take some tape and just put some over that so that it holds it while we continue to work. Okay, we're going to make it nice and tight. Give that goop every opportunity to stick. Okay, rip it off right there. Very good. Very good. Alright, so while that's drying, get goop squeezing out all the holes there. Oh, I've got goop out, and I've got goop all over my fingers. I'm going to put some goop on the inside of this battery bay. I'm just going to put a nice thick layer all the way around, and that's going to help that foam stick. When that goop dries, it's going to be like a rubber cup, and it's not going to let our battery punch through the bottom in case we crash. There we go. Just put a nice thick layer over the whole inside there. And also, Velcro won't stick very well to this foam. So by gooping the inside of the battery bay here, we're giving something to Velcro that we're going to use to hold our batteries in, something else to stick to. Add strength, add stickiness. You can see. And just makes it better. More goop, more gooder. There we go. Alright, so you can see I've got just a good thick layer all up in there. Anything you need to strengthen with foam, little goop will do the job. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video and go get all this goop off my hands, and we'll be back in just a minute to make the next step here. Alright, so I've got most of the glue off my hands. Now the next step is, you're not going to have to do this with every airframe, but we're going to cut these back pieces. And I'll show you why. Grab my motor and a propeller. All the propellers. They're there. So this propeller is a 5-inch propeller, is what we're going to be using. I may want the option to run a 6-inch propeller, so I may cut it even a little wider than we need to. But you'll see that, actually that doesn't even fit. You can't even fit that propeller between, so we have to cut it no matter what. But we're going to want to cut it even wider than that. When you run a propeller, you want to get as much space around the propeller as reasonably possible. Because A, it reduces noise and makes your wing less loud. If you run a propeller with something right near the tip, it's going to make an unholy racket. And B, it's more efficient. You get cleaner air to your propeller. So we want to clear out some of this foam. I said a lot of wings you wouldn't have to do this. The spec wings one you don't have to worry about that. But we're going to have to cut some foam here. So my propeller's going to be running about there. So I want to take off about that much. So we'll just measure that. It's about 2.5 inches, and we're going to go to 3 inches. We'll just take a good solid 3 inches right off. So 3 inches from this tip here, I'm going to make a cut. Alright, I made a mark. I'm just going to go from that mark right to that edge right there. Just like that. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So 3 inches, 3 inches from that edge. 3 inches? Did I get 3 inches? It was only 2 inches. I did 2 inches. Is that going to be enough? Not really. Well, it's 2.5 inches. 1, 2.5. It's right there. Okay, 2.5 inches. One, 2.5 inches. Okay, we're going to take our straight knife here and just cut that right off. Just like that. Oh, just took that much off. Now you want to save these pieces because if you ever need to do foam repair, you've got some extra foam. Okay, same thing on this side. Actually, it wasn't. I didn't quite follow the line there. Let me do that again. I went to the inside, so no big deal. There we go. Okay. In theory, these should be the same. Oh yeah, there we go. Actually, you can see I didn't quite take enough off in that second one. So I'm going to go through and take a little more. There we go. There we go. It's a nice straight line. Okay. Good. Now we've got plenty of room for a prop to spin in there. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that's done. Let's see. We're getting pretty close to the point where we're going to need to laminate. Is there anything else we need to do? Well, we can cut our Elevons. So, Elevons are these balsa pieces. Although, on other planes, you may have foam Elevons. Foam Elevons will be just directly attached already with a foam hinge. But if you have balsa ones, you're going to have to cut these to size and shape. They're easy enough to cut. You can see they're like little balsa triangles. Now, these do have a top and a bottom, which you do need to be aware of. When you put them together like that and there's no gap, it's hard to see on our camera. You see there's no gap there, that means this is the top. If there's a gap between those two, you don't have the top. Because that's the way they're tapered. See, there's a nice gap between there. So you gotta flip them over until you find where there's no gap, and that'll be the top. And that's because you want that leading edge tapered away from where you're going to connect it towards the bottom. So what I do once I find the top, just grab a pencil, mark a little T on it. There we go. Now we know. Okay, so we're going to cut these to length. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to grab our straight edge. We're going to put it right on that cut that we made. And we're going to line up the other side just like that. Line it up right to the edge. I'm doing it on this side so you can see what I'm talking about. To the top. Line it up right to the edge. Right on this point, line that up. You could let it hang over a little bit. We are just going to cut this off. So if you want to let it hang over a little bit, give yourself a little extra. That's no big deal. Take our straight edge right on that cut that we made. We're just going to continue that out onto this balsa. Just like that. See, I made a mark there. And that's the mark we're going to cut on. Now when you cut these, it's easy enough. Balsa is such a soft wood, you just take a knife and just score that line that you made, and it'll pretty much just cut right through it. That's all you have to do. I mean, this balsa is super easy to cut. So now you see when we line that up, that just continues right out from that line we made. Right along that edge. Now, so what you do to cut this edge is you flip it over like that. And then you take your pencil and make sure your points are lined up on the other end. And you just make a mark here. It's not really a straight mark. Let's try that again. And that's where it's going to connect. You flip it up and over. Just like that. There. Just make that mark. Cut it off. You may have to run the knife through it just a couple times before it snaps off. There it is. There you go. Now, you can also taper these if you want. To taper them, this is kind of optional. It makes your wing look a little cooler. These are 1 inch wide. It makes your wing look a little cooler, and it also takes a little weight off the back edge. Whenever you're building, you always want to think about weight on the back of the wing, and you want to get as much of the weight in the front of the wing as possible, because a nose-heavy wing is much easier to correct than a tail-heavy wing. So, if at all possible, you want to get that wing as nose-heavy as you can. You know, much weight, so taking a little weight off the back doesn't hurt. And basically what you do here is, there's no real scientific method, but about 2/3 of the way, so we got, how many lines in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. So I'm going to say about line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, between line number 5 and 6. That's 2, 3, 5, 6. Just make a mark about 2/3 of the way. If you want to measure it, that's fine. And then you go down the length, and this is about 6 inches. Move it down about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. I'm just eyeballing this, by the way. There might be a more scientific way to do it. And then you just mark from one line to the other. So I'm going to take it a little further than I did. Like that. Yeah. Maybe I don't. These are such small pieces of wood, I don't want to take too much off. We won't have anything to connect our control horns to. Like that. We'll just take our knife and taper that. Just like that. There you go. Makes it look a little cooler and gets a little of that weight off the back edge. All your flying is done out here on this end. All your control comes from the last third or so. So you're not hurting anything by taking this wood off. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is grab some sand. Well, no, not yet. Not yet, I'm not going to sand it. I'm going to do the other one first. Okay, so this is the top. I'm going to mark the top on here again. Just a little T. I know which one's which. Now, could you take this one and put it over this one and just cut it the same? Yes. But it's not a good idea, and I'll show you why. They may be a little different. So, it's better to do each one individually. In case these cuts you made over here are a little off, you don't end up with too long of an Elevon or something else goofy going on. Each one is its own special snowflake. There we go. Okay. I'm just going to do the same thing, just cut this again. Beautiful. Okay, and just the same thing again. I'm just going to flip it over. Line those two up. Flip it straight over. Cut this other edge. There we go. So, let's see how close they are. You can see one's definitely a hair longer than the other. That's why I told you not to cut them together. But there's one line we can match up right here. Get that tape off of there. Okay. There we go. Move on, number 2, cut. A little bit of a high spot right there. Very good. So now that they're cut, get rid of the scraps. Sand them. So you want to make sure you got your tops. And I marked that one, and mark this one too, top. And what you want to do is you want to sand the bottom leading edge. You just want to round that. You want to give the whole thing a sand, really. Just to take off any edges. But you don't want to sand it a lot because balsa is very soft. And you will start taking it away very quickly. Put all your cuts, give them a quick rub. And really, as much as I just hit it right there is enough. That's it. With one exception. This is the top. So we want to take this bottom sharp edge and just round that off. This isn't really a necessary thing, something I always do, because it gives your control surfaces much more fluid movement, I think. It allows you to have a little more down movement on the control surfaces, and I like that. I like to fly inverted, and that pretty much was enough. I'm going to give it just a little bit more. Balsa is so soft, don't sand too much. So you can see what I did there. Just rounded that edge. Caught a little balsa dust. Just rounded that edge there. So that when we connect it, that round edge will, what's this one? That round edge will just roll when the surface moves down. Do the same thing on this one. Give it all over sand and then sand that edge. A quick wipe just like that with 100 grit is plenty enough. This wood is so soft. You really don't want to do too much. Okay, and this is the top. And we're just going to round that bottom edge off. If you screw this up and you feel like you need more, you can always get these balsas widely available. You can get it at like any home improvement store or Michael's craft store. And cut yourself some new ones. It might be hard to get the taper right, but you can always make some more. But it's a pretty simple process. Okay, same with that one, just rounded it off. Well, I screwed up. That's not the top. Either that or I cut them wrong. That's the top. No, that's the top. Yeah, okay. I didn't screw up. Thought I screwed up. Nope, that's right. Okay. Thought I cut one of my Elevons backwards. That would have been good. So that's going to go on there just like that. And that's going to give us our control surface. And that's going to go on there just like that. And give us our control surface on this side. If you wanted to paint your wing, once this glue is dry, sand this, and now would probably be the time to paint it. I'm not going to paint this wing. I like the black. It's got some bright yellow stickers I'm going to put on there. But if you wanted to paint, probably now would be the time. You just give this whole thing a sand down, spray it with whatever color you want, paint on with acrylic by hand if you want, paint some stripes. You know, you can get as creative as you like. I've painted all my other wings. This one I'm actually not going to paint. I like the black. I'm just going to put the big TBRC on one wing and the Apex yellow sticker on the other wing. And maybe some other stickers I have laying around on the bottom. Just to differentiate it in the sky. And that's going to be it. Let's see. I think we're just about ready to laminate when our glue dries. The glue on our motor mount dries. And I think we'll be ready to go with the lamination. I'm just clearing out this hole in the center of the motor mount again now that this glue is kind of tacked up. Make sure I don't leave so much glue in that center hole that the motor doesn't spin. Okay, is there anything else we can do before we laminate? Let's see. Well, we can put the wings on. Might as well do it now while we got glue drying. I mean, not the wings, the fins. They're going to go on here like this. This is why this center section is raised, because these fins are going to attach to it. Just like that. That's going to look pretty cool. There's another one of those fins in there. There it is. Throw that propeller back in the box. So, might as well goop those on. Yeah, they're going to go on just like that. Alright, let's get some glue and put those on. Then we're going to have to wait for our glue to dry again. And then next step's going to be lamination. So, hopefully we get to that tonight. Don't be intimidated by laminating. It's really easier than it seems. I'm going to show you a method to do it really quickly and easily. And it's going to be just fine. It's something that intimidates people the first time they build a wing, but it's really not hard. Now, if you're working with something that's molded EPP, like an S800 or a ready-made Recruit, you really don't need to be laminated. You can laminate them. I have one of my S800s is laminated, and the other one isn't, and they're both fine. The one that isn't is showing a little wear from like landing. The skids are starting to wear off in the bottom where I've been landing on it, but other than that, it's fine. Look at that. That's cool. That's going to be cool. Just rub that goop around the edge there. Nice. I have to put a little tape on there just to make sure it doesn't move while it's drying. That's good. That's good. It's going to be cool. It's the first time I've used these kind of upright fins like this. I printed these also in TPU, so they're a little bendable, but they're pretty tough. They're 100% infill. Okay. I've never put these kind of fins on anything before, so I'm just kind of eyeballing them where I think they should go. They're lined up with the back of that fuselage pod, and it looks right to me. I'm just using the geometry of that center section to make sure these are, anytime you put fins on like this or anything that's going to stick up in the air, to make sure that they're perfectly parallel. Because if it's off in one direction or the other direction, it'll mess with your airframe. Just remember that anytime you're building anything with fins like that, you need to pay extra special attention to make sure that those fins really are lined up. And because I'm using the geometry of the center section, I know that they're straight. Just going to take a little extra goop and just right around the edges there. I use goop like caulk all around the edges of all this stuff. That stuff dries pretty quick. It's already starting to dry. Alright, so we're going to have to give this thing a few hours. We're going to let this motor mount dry. We're going to let these fins tack on there. I'm going to put a little tape on. And then we're going to be ready to laminate. And that's just the next step. So, a few minutes. You'll see me laminating. It'll be a couple hours for me, but I'll pause the video and we'll come back. Like I said, if you wanted to paint, before we laminate, we're going to sand all the foam surfaces, get this scratchiness off, and then we're going to laminate. But if you wanted to paint, you'd sand all the foam surfaces, paint, then laminate. You can paint your Elevons. I'm not going to paint anything. I like it just the way it is. I'm just going to attach them, and we're going to rock and roll just like that. So, alright, I'll see you soon for laminating.